Hello, everyone. Coach Allison back, and I have week 30 Defy Aging. And that means it is mobility week. So we do those every 10 weeks. So this week for mobility, it's going to be 4 rounds of 6 stations. We are going to be rotating around the turf space, and it's going to be 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for those 4 rounds. I believe that was the same timing structure that we had 2 weeks ago. There are a few single-sided exercises that we're going to be doing, so we can just do a full 2 rounds on each side for those, so we don't have to worry about switching sides halfway through the sets. So that's kind of nice to not have to worry about switching sides quickly or anything like that. And just remember, so for mobility week, a lot of the movements aren't easy by any means, and I think some of you who have been with us for a while will remember that a lot of the mobility movements aren't always easy. But it does mean that for many of us, the workout might not be like as high intensity as we might be used to. Heart rate might not be getting up as high as we're used to, might not be as out of breath. So those things we are taking a break from this week, which is good. It's good to, when you hit it hard every week, week after week, it's actually good to kind of take a step back, give your body a little bit of a rest, and then you might notice that the following week you feel nice and refreshed and ready to hit hard again. But again, that doesn't mean the workout is easy, because some of these movements can be very, very challenging in their own way. Okay, so let's go through a demonstration of our 6 movements. Station 1 is an external rotation. We've done this before. It's working your shoulder joint, and we're going to be rotating, pulling the resistance outward. There is an internal rotation too. That is also a thing. But this week we're going to be doing external rotation. So the band is anchored up to the inside of you. You're holding the band handle with your outside arm. Okay, start it kind of at your midline like this. Upper arm is right against your side, so it's not like way out here or anything. And we pull the resistance going outward. But notice how I'm keeping this upper part of my arm pretty much against my side. There can be like a sliver of space, like you'll probably maybe see, like a little sliver of space between my arm and my body. It doesn't have to be like glued, like, like affixed to your body. There can be a little bit of air there, but we just want to make sure we're not doing this and letting that upper arm completely detach and come out here, because that is not serving the function. The movement then is kind of almost more of a side raise. We want to be focusing the movement just in this shoulder joint here. Okay, think of it like a door hinge. Does that make sense? Does that help? Like visually, think of it like a door hinge. A door hinge just does this. The door doesn't come like off the hinge, right? Okay, so if maybe all those visuals will help. It doesn't take a lot of resistance. So if I was start way out here and it was too hard and I'm having to kind of get sloppy and like turn my body to help or lift this arm, that's way too hard. So I know I'm just going to step in a little bit to lighten the resistance. That's better. That's all I had to do. I didn't have to change bands or anything like that. I just had to step in a little bit. And keep a straight, strong wrist. So don't let the wrist kind of cave like this. And don't like do the opposite where we're kind of flicking the wrist when we extend it. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. When you're extending your arm outward, don't flick the wrist like that. So the wrist never moves. It's just straight and strong. It's actually a very small movement. So that was a lot of cueing to give for a small movement. But we want it to be as effective as possible to keep it like this and not overdoing it. So 2 sets on each side for our external rotation. Side lying leg circle is the next one. It's maybe not harder than it looks, maybe just trickier than it looks. So you can just get comfortable here. Rest your head in your hands. Put your legs out at a slight angle forward. See how like straight out from me would be like this, and that's not comfortable. That's a ton of pressure on your hip bone. So kind of swing them forward just a little. Keep them straight though. Now my top leg, I'm going to kind of point my toe a little bit. I'm going to make sure you can see my legs. That's the important part. I think we're just off screen a little bit. Okay, you're going to point your toes, so little twinkle toes, right? Um, yeah, leg circles. Draw as big of a circle as you can with your top leg. So I'm going as far back as I can and as far forward as I can, but without any shifting in my hips here. So my top hip is stacked directly on top of my bottom hip. What I mean by that is I want you to kind of watch my hips here, and they're staying perfectly still. That might not make sense right now, but I'm going to show you what I mean by that. And now I'm going to make it so they're not staying still. It's my hips rocking back and kind of rocking forward with my leg circle, because I'm making my circle too big and I'm not controlling my hips. I'm tipping my hips back, and now I'm tipping my hips forward. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Keep the hips very still. Just allow this leg to move in the hip socket without that wavering of the hips or the upper body. Keep everything very still. And if you do that, it's going to be very challenging. You're going to fatigue that hip muscle pretty quickly. Halfway through the set, switch direction with your leg. So like I'm going back first. See how I'm going back, coming forward, back, then forward. Now halfway through the set, I'm going to start going forward first. So it's just a little minor difference. It does feel quite a bit different though. Okay, so for anyone not doing our floor exercises, you can do this standing. Definitely feel free to hold on to something for balance. That's no problem at all. But you're going to do a leg circle standing. It really feels exactly the same in the hip and glutes. It really, really does. Different, not using gravity quite the same, right? Because you're not laying down, lifting your leg up. Don't overly tilt like this to get the leg up. So just a little bit of a tilt to get your foot off the floor. But that's about it. And then halfway through the set, you can switch direction. So really, I wasn't holding on to anything, so I was a little shaky there. Definitely feel free to go next to a wall to put a hand on a wall, but you can do that when standing up just the same as you can do it lying down. Next, we have a floor slide. This is for shoulder mobility and opens up the chest muscles, so you start lying on the floor. Bend your knees and with feet flat on the floor. That's actually very important. It helps you to some stability and lower back support. So bend your knees. It doesn't have anything to do with your shoulders, but it keeps your body in a better position. All right, we've done this one before. Got a stupid hair clip in, so I guess that's coming out. All right, all ready with your elbows out to the side. It's challenging, right? We're trying to keep our entire arm, so hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, and shoulder. We're trying to keep all that on the floor. So already we might be kind of looking like this or like this. It's fine. Keep as much of all that stuff that I mentioned on the floor as you can. And then you might want to do this on the mat if you have short sleeves on or a tank top, because it's a little scratchy on this darn turf. Slowly. So we're not doing fast like this. Slowly glide your arms up, trying to keep all of those things I mentioned on the floor until your arms are as straight as possible. If you can, try to squeeze your ears with your biceps, and then slowly bend back down, pulling your elbows back until they are just past the midline. So you're kind of almost making a W shape, not quite. And you just repeat. Going up. Try not to overly arch your back, so you'll have a little space between your lower back and the floor, but try not to overly arch it. Anyways, we keep going back and forth between those, keeping all of the arm on the floor. And anyone staying off the floor, come with me. We're gonna do a wall slide. Same thing. Step your feet out from the wall a little bit, so you're not like, your feet aren't against the wall too. You can step your feet out and lean. Your butt's against the wall. And you keep your hands against the wall. I have a watch on, I'm scratching the wall. Glide those arms up. And then glide them back down. Keeping everything against the wall as much as you can. I know some part of the hand wrist, arm, something's going to normally lift off the wall because it's really hard to open up like that, but do your best. This might be the hardest one of all of them because I know this is very tricky for the shoulder mobility, but that's why we're doing it. All right, so that's our wall slide, floor slide or wall slide. Okay, next up we have a TRX deep squat. So you'll want the TRX lengthened pretty, almost to its full lengthened length for this. We've done this before in the past, and I think people trip it up quite a bit with the function of the TRX. It's just there for a little bit of assistance because it's the goal is to get a deep squat, so a lot of knee flexion. But the TRX is there to assist you in getting back up and also assist you in taking a little bit of your body weight off of your knees. Okay, so normal squat as far as stance. Got these TRXs here. It might take a rep or two to figure out where to stand. So like right here, I'm too far back because now I ran out of space here with my arms. But if you're too far forward, it's like now I fell backwards because I was too far forward. So it might take you a rep or two to get the right placement of where to stand. So you're going into a squat, just trying to get this full butt to floor. If you have the ability with your knees, if you have any medical directives to not put this much flexion, this much bend in your knees, then stop, accordingly. That should be obvious. Don't go against what a doctor has told you. But if there's no restriction there, so right now I'm not putting quite all my body weights down because I'm kind of using my arms with these TRXs to kind of keep a little bit of body weight up. And when I'm coming up, I'm using my arms with these TRXs to kind of help pull me up. So that's where these are called TRX assisted deep squats. Okay, so this is our goal. The one thing I don't want you to do is this. We're not 100% leaning, like if I let go of these, I would fall backwards. We're not 100% leaning back. What you are doing is a normal squat. If I don't have the TRXs and I'm just doing a squat, you have forward lean, right? You guys do squats every week with Defy. We do squats all the time. You do a forward lean. If I let go at any time during these, if I was to let go, I shouldn't fall backwards because we're not 100% relying on them like this. We're not leaning. If I let go of these right now, I am falling back, hitting my head, boom. So that is what these are not. They're not 100% reliant on the TRX. They're TRX assistants. Okay, I'm trying to make that very clear. So you're doing a normal squat, just getting deeper, and you just have a little bit of help. I'm going to move this because I want to show you. I'm literally holding on to, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to literally hold on to these with like my fingertips just to show you that I'm just using a little bit of assistance. I'm not 100% reliant with a death grip on them. So that's that. The reason this is part of mobility week is, yes, it's going to be more work on your thighs too. That's great. But we're working on that more excessive knee flexion. So that's more mobility in your knees and your hips, more hip flexion as well. So that's why it's part of mobility week. So have fun with that. Let's get some nice deep squats this week. Okay, next up we have a prone back extension. It's going to look relatively similar to Superman, but it's different. So Superman, your arms are out, and when you lift your body, you're also lifting your legs. Okay, so there's no legs, no lower body involved in this at all, and the hands are going to be behind the head. So that's the difference. Because the hands are behind the head, and there's no lower body, it's going to make this movement appear a lot smaller than Superman. So prone back extension, so the legs aren't involved at all. You're always going to keep your head looking straight down, so your nose is on your mat, on the floor. Fingertips are just lightly resting on your head. You don't have to do a death grip on the back of your head or anything. And we lift. Exhale on the way up. It's a lot of core. It's a lot of abs too. You're going to feel that right away. Okay, so think of it like trying to get as much of your chest, torso, whatever, ribs off the floor as possible. And it's very important you're not moving your neck at all. So we're not doing this. Okay. So the neck never moves. Your nose should always be pointed directly at the floor. That's for two reasons. One, whatever, to ensure that you're being safe and we're not going to do any damage to our neck. That's a biggie. And two, to make sure you're doing it right. Because doing this doesn't do anything. But if you do it the correct way, you're actually working the back, which is what we're trying to work. So I'm going to show you with an incline bench a way to do this if we're not doing the floor. So if you're not going to be doing floor exercises, the coach can wheel an incline bench into the space and kind of whatever you're comfortable with. This would be a good level, or maybe one higher. Either one, and whatever you're comfortable with, because you're going to be kind of tilting forward on it. But you straddle it and lay on your chest, okay? Hands behind the head. Or if that's, you don't have the shoulder mobility to get the hands behind the head in the position, you can kind of put them at your ears, like whatever you're able to do. Let me turn this a little bit more. Whatever you can get. Okay, so either gently behind the head or maybe at the ears. And again, we're not doing a neck thing, same cue as the other demo, but you're going to try to get as much of your chest and torso off the bench as possible. Okay, so we're still getting that back extension. Like for me, this would be a little bit high. I'm not feeling like I'm having to lift too much. So it's a little scarier to come down farther on the bench, but now I'm able to feel like I'm having to lift a little more to get a little more engagement with my back and my spine. So that's the alternative to the floor to still partake in the back extension. The last station is a band-assisted hamstring stretch. This is just going to be a static stretch, but it's very, very different in the way we're going to do it. So we need these thick body bands, like they're the fully enclosed circles. You can do this with a band with tubing with handles too. You just need one of the really, really thick ones, like the black or the purple. These body bands are best, and I think all the clubs have them. You're going to double it up, put it around the flat of your foot. Keep your other foot bent, I suggest. You can put it out straight, but that's just kind of like you're doing the splits, and so it's more stretchy. If you have the ability to do that and it's comfortable, go for it. Otherwise, keep that leg bent. All we're doing here is going for a hamstring stretch. So you hold the other two ends of the band, the other two ends, just the two ends. And don't lock, see how I'm now locking out my joint? Don't quite lock it like that. So you keep that leg slightly bent. But this is great because you have the ability to pull the leg in, bring it out to the side a little, kind of straighten the leg a little more, but bring it out here. Angle the foot out, angle the foot in. All that stuff changes what you're feeling in that hamstring. So this is a great way, as opposed to if you don't have the band, which is fine, and you're just pulling the leg in, you kind of are just kind of stuck here. Yeah, you can, but the band is such a nice way to just make all those subtle changes easily. So anyways, again, band around the flat of the foot, and you can just kind of pull slightly. Now here's the thing though, don't be super tense with your upper body. We never want to shrug the shoulders. So just kind of relax your upper body, gently hold the bands. And yeah, this is it for the 30 seconds, 2 sets on each side, because next time you come around and do the other leg, I don't know if this will change anything, seeing the other side. It shouldn't really, but just, yeah. And again, I have the hyperextension ability with my joints. So if I super straighten my leg, it looks like this. Don't hyperextend, don't lock out the joint. So instead, keep that soft bend in the joint like that. Anyone not doing floor stuff, very easy option for you. Well, not easy. Easy solution, whatever. A very easy alternative is coming up to a bench. It's just as effective of a stretch. Seated hamstring stretch. Sit on the, here's the thing, you have to sit right on the edge. If you sit back, and you can't straighten out your legs, so if you have any, if you have too much of your leg, your butt, and your hamstring on the bench, it doesn't work. So you do have to be right. Your butt has to be like 3 inches of your butt on the thing. You have to be right at the edge. That's actually very important because you have to fully extend this leg. See how my leg is straight now? If I'm back here, I can't straighten my leg. So very important. But anyway, straighten your leg, flex your foot. Don't lock the joints in. Same as the other cue. Very subtle bend in the knee. Keep this other leg bent because you'll want it to like rest on. And then just reach down. Doesn't matter if you reach for, I'm flexible so I can reach my toe, but that's not like, you don't have to. You can just reach for your ankle, or you don't have to reach for anything. You can just do this. Whatever, you're just coming forward and down, so you should feel the stretch here. So you're just getting an isometric hamstring stretch. Okay, all right. That's our band assisted hamstring stretch, or the seated version for station 6. All right, and our team builder. It's a medicine ball line drill, I think I called it. So you're going to be in a straight line with all of your Defy participants, straight right next to you, but you need them to be, everyone needs to be spaced out pretty good. So everyone should be about an arm's length away from each other. So make sure that the people next to you aren't too close. That's actually very important because you're going to be throwing these around a little bit. So we're basically doing a version of the side-to-side slam that you do by yourself with the ball, kind of, sort of. So it's really hard to show a team thing when I'm by myself. The person to my left here would have slammed it and it would have landed here. I'm going to pick it up, go over my head, slam it. Now the person who's next to me would pick it up, do that same thing. Everyone's going to do that going down, and then everyone's going to do that coming back. So that would be happening now coming this way. The person to my side would have left it there. I'm going to come over here, overhead, slam it, leave it, that person. But see how I'm doing that pivot, that pickup, overhead, and the pivot. The foot positioning is very important because we want to go for that pivot. We're going to go for that big overhead movement. So we're not catching it. We're not slamming. You don't have to catch it on the bounce from the person that's next to you. Just let it fall and drop and die there. You're picking it up from the floor and doing a full 180. That's very important. If you try to catch it, it's going to end up to be very messy, very sloppy, and it's not going to work. So yeah, we'll do that down and back. If you have a lot of people, maybe we'll just do it once. If you have a full group of 12, if you have a smaller group, like 3 or 4 people, we'll probably go down and back for like a minute or 30 seconds. So maybe down and back like 5 or 6 times. I'm going to leave that up to your coach. But that's going to be what the team builder will look like. I think it'll be a lot of fun. All right, everybody. So that's our mobility week. I hope some of these movements are both challenging and you feel maybe some new things, but I hope they aren't overly difficult and frustrating. So I hope you have a good mix of challenge, but feeling the effects of the mobility. So back in week 31, back to our standard type of routine, and we'll see you then.